What up, peeps? It's your girl Josh coming back to you from Real Takes. Well, you guys, it's that time. We have the breakdown and review of the season finale for Black Lightning. This was episode 16, and this one's titled The Book of the Apocalypse, Chapter 2, The Omega. Now, before I start, this will be spoilers, so hopefully everyone's have seen the actual last and final episode of season 2. Now, the last couple of weeks I've not been able to do them. I've been doing a couple other things. Work's been kind of taking a little bit of segue, so I'm will discuss a couple of the stuff that happened prior to this last and final episode of the season. But I just want to get into this because first and foremost, this was a great episode. I enjoyed it immensely. A lot was happening in this trailer, a lot. And I look forward to getting a good discussion about that. Secondly, I feel like overall some things came to a head. We have a couple conclusions. There's still some unfinished business in certain storylines. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, the last one, which was the Book of the Apocalypse, chapter 1, the Alpha, was where, of course, we see just really briefly just the situation of Jen wanting to get revenge, of course, with Tobias and what he did to Khalil. Of course, we get to see Lala again dealing with a situation where he's just tired of feeling like he's being used and being controlled by Tobias, and he wants to just rid us of Tobias, whichever. Secondly, you're seeing things that are happening where you can clearly tell that Tobias, Cutter, and Dr. Jason work together to deal with the pods, have these extra, metahumans, like remember we said Project MOD, working to cause havoc, whatever, because he wants to, of course, use them as weapons, and really just to kind of put more money in his bank account, which they will be running for a larger fee. He's putting it on the dark web to get people to see what type of destruction they can cause, things of that nature. Also, just seeing things in regards to Jen showing up, trying to get the upper hand when Tobias not listening to her family, when her father tells her we're going to work smarter, not letting anyone know who we are, do what you need to do, things of that nature. And of course, her not listening, disobeying. And then in a situation at the end of the episode, you see that she becomes overpowered by her own, powers, that they end up having to rush to get to her. And of course, this what gets us into this final episode where he shows Gamby showing up. And you see him, seeing Jennifer on the ground, in the middle of the street where anybody honestly could have seen her. And as he's trying to approach her, you see Lala, because Lala, of course, in the last episode was trying to get Tobias. Cutter had tried to, fend him off so they didn't get away. They made it away, but, unbeknownst to them, not realizing she doesn't know who he is. But, Tobias has no idea that Lala, aka Latavia, is looking for him. So from there, you see him showing up out of the shadows, saying, who are you? Gun flashing, asking Gamby, do you work for Tobias? He's like, no, I don't work for Tobias. And of course, he kind of leaves him to be, and he starts to help Jen. Now, Jen, of course, is having a moment she can't contain it because, of course, her emotions play a part in this. And that's when Gamby's like, go to your safe place. And see from there, Perina shows up and explains to her, what she needs to do, telling her you don't need to be here, you need to get back there, whichever, because in the midst of her trying to understand her powers and contain herself, Gamby's trying to help her and causing damage to himself in the process. So when she finally does wake up, she realizes that, of course, Gamby is kind of hurt. He looks like he's, slightly, burned, and he's basically knocked out. So from there, you see the scenes from there where you kind of just see the situation where, of course, now Black Lightning shown up, and then of course Nissa, aka Thunder, shows up as well, and they're trying to figure out what to do. They contact Lynn to find out what is it she do. She can't do anything. So of course, Anissa, being that she works at a hospital, kind of has an understanding of what to do. She of course is a medical student, whichever, and just kind of feel like, his pulse is low, whatever, no, we need to get back and try to help him, whatever, and all that, and see what they can do. So while they're there, they, of course, get him inside of his, van, whatever. And then from there, Black Lightning decides to go in here to see who's inside, whatever, if it's anybody, still in there, whichever. Because prior to that, Cutter had already put in plans in motion for them to figure out, I think the girl's name is Rebecca, one of the metas, to help them, get these particular pods out of there, whatever, so they can get them safekeeping, whatever, so that nobody would try to take them. So from there, you kind of just see the scene where it shows them actually getting back to Gamby's place. You know, they put him on, you know, some, you know, big little, you know, wheel out little, you know, place, framed out, you know, table, so they can start checking his vitals, things of that nature, whichever, to see if he's going to be, you know, okay. And from there, you kind of see a scene from there where it shows, of course, Tobias and Cutter finally showing back up at his place, and he's just like, you know, he doesn't appreciate her telling him, you know, what to do while we're leaving, whichever and all. And she's like, you know, you either need to shut up or you need to thank me for saving you, you know, it's one or the other, whichever. And I will say I do give her credit, because she doesn't take his mess, whatever. And sometimes he'll frown his face up, but it's just like, she's right. Even though we know he has certain ways of dealing with certain situations, but at the moment she's not realizing to what extent he has over if he saw Lala and took the matters into his hands. She's thinking this guy was just going to kill him. He might have had something, whichever, and she just want to save him. You know, they are seeing each other, so of course she cares a little bit more than just this being just some sort of business type of transaction, whichever. They're lovers. So it shows a scene where they're talking and they're trying to set up a situation to kind of have the cops and the, you know, the PD in Henderson distracted while they try to get the pods. So they decide they're going to cause some havoc downtown in Freeland, whatever, and all that. So while they're distracted, they can try to find a way to, you know, get them. Now, in the midst of this, we did not see Dr. Jace at the moment, so that means she was probably somewhere in there. And then from there, you kind of just see them, you know, just discussing, kind of sitting around, whichever. And from there, you kind of notice Lightning, you know, kind of walking within the place, and he kind of sees that these are where all the pods are, and he makes a little quick call to Lynn and lets her know, you won't believe what I just came across, whichever. And that scene was actually really, really good, whichever, because from that part, he kind of lets her know, and she's like, you know, do you know, have my signal? I know where you are, you know, so I'm going to head towards you. And of course, from there, you see the scene where it looks like Agent Odell kind of sees her walking away. And of course, you know, he's following her, you know, so she's unbeknownst to anything that man is doing with her, you know, in regards to, you know, watching her, following her, watching the family. They're totally clueless. So from there, you see the scene where it still shows Gamby, you know, Anissa and Jen kind of checking, you know, his burns, checking to see if he's okay. He's breathing. He is breathing, but it's very, you know, kind of, you know, not, you know, strong, whichever. And of course, Jen feeling, you know, of course, guilty. Why did he step in, whatever and all? But that's the thing he would do. You know, he wants to make sure she's okay. He wasn't going to just leave you there. You know, anyone could have come up to her and try to do something to her. So from there, you see the scene where it shows Tobias talking to his sister's painting. And of course, Cutter comes down the stairs. And that part was so funny because she's just looking at him like, and he turns like, what? You know, this is who you seen, honey. You know, he has this strange way of communicating through the picture of his sister, like he really feels like he's talking to his sister. A lot of people, of course, will never understand it, whatever, but to him, he could care less. So it just kind of shows her trying to, you know, see, you know, what he wants to do, how we to proceed or whatever. And she's trying to kind of be a little bit comforting and saying, you know, maybe you need to get some rest. He's like, don't worry about me getting rest. You just need to deal with, you know, figuring out where Black Lightning and dealing with that crap after what happened and him interfering the last time, you know, with some of the metas. So she walks away, whichever, from there, and then you just kind of see the scene of Black Lightning coming in, of course, with the plots, kind of walking in a little bit more, whatever. And at that moment, there's a scene that happens where you see a nice little fight scene between Lynn and Dr. Jace. And let's just say that instead of stepping in to stop it, it looks like, you know, Pierce, aka Black Lightning, he's like, okay, I'm not going to interfere. Looks like his wife, look like she's got it on hand, and she really has it handled. They get into it, her and Dr. Jace, and of course Lynn gets the upper hand, and it is something to behold. And that was a good scene, and you could tell she's just frustrated. She doesn't care for Dr. Jace, whichever, in any form or fashion. So then eventually she ends up on the ground, whichever. And then from there, she eventually kind of, you know, gets up, tries to explain to them, you know, how they can help her, you know, and what she could give in return. And that means her knowing information about the metas, what, you know, is going on, what Tobias is planning to do. Because at first, you know, Lynn's not having it, but then they're like, you know, I have this, you know, you might want this information because there's a lot more metas than this. And that's kind of key, which I'll kind of go into more information with that later. But From there, they're like, what do you want? It's like, I want protection from, the PD. I don't want nothing to do with, the ASA, whichever, because she knows if Agent Odell knew what she had done, oh my goodness, she would never get out. She probably would eventually, after they use her, he would kill her. Just similarly kind of how Tobias wanted to kill her, until, the guy, his little nerd guy was actually helping him until he killed him. More so Cutter did. So from there, they're like, what information you have? And she's like, you might need a pen and paper. So that's when you kind of see the scene of her kind of being escorted out by, Henderson, and you see, of course, Lynn in the background, whatever. Of course, she still looks serious. She's just like, okay. She gets in the cop car, Dr. Jace, and then they just whisk her off. And then from there, you see the scene of what looks like to be Lynn going through the information about the pods, whatever. And of course, Agent Odell just shows up out of the blue, and she's just like, understand, like, how did you know I'm here, whatever. Not once thinking that this man could be fallen, but you would think she would remember that from the last time when somebody tried to abduct her and her daughter, or at least try to hurt her daughter, and then from there take her. Oh, excuse me, you guys, my apologies. And from that, they kind of talking, and she's trying to tell him she's trying to work with, making sure they're stabilized, whichever. And then proceeding with, of course, he having his people come and get the pods, whatever. So from there, you see the scene of Jen and Anissa back at Gamby's, place, whichever. Seeing what's happening on the news about the guy in the previous episode who got a little bit of green light or whatever, and he had these certain powers he couldn't understand. He wore a cape, had a mask, whatever. He ends up in a, situation where the authorities kind of take him out, whatever and all, because at the time they kept asking him to get down on the ground, and he's just like, don't hurt me, don't hurt me. So you see kind of a lot of people kind of angry, retaliating, and it's now all of a sudden this issue in the community where they're just not happy with the authorities, the cops. They're upset this innocent man has been killed for no reason at all, and just a lot of stuff starting to happen with these riots or whatever within Freeland. So it's kind of getting out of hand. So from there, you do see the scene where it shows Dr. J shows up at the actual police department, and she's being whisked to her jail cell, whatever. Before that can happen, the lights go out, so that means that Tobias is set in motion with Cutter's help to turn off the power generator, because he feels like that's the best way that Black Lightning will charge up. So we have it where everything's out. They're trying to figure out how to get the power back up. This will give him his opportunity to get to the actual pods and get the rest of those pods, so he can, of course, use them, make a profit, whatever he's planning to do with all those, different types of metas. So from there, you see the scene of, just Jen and Anissa talking about what are we going to do, whichever, who's something we can do, Gamby's down, whatever. And of course, Gamby eventually wakes up and he's just, let her know I'm okay. Of course, Jen gives him a hug, whichever, and she's mad at him for why would you do this? Why would you, interfere, whatever, and all that. And it's like, you're my family, whatever, and I care. And then she kind of understands. And Anissa's like, we're all going to do our part, whatever. Gamby is family, and he would never not do something to help us as much as we would do for them. And I like the scene. So from there, you kind of see him, realizing we need to help Black Lightning, because with the generators or whatever, powers down, whatever, his suit's going to need to be charged up. He's really using it at its full potential. He's in the air. He's going from place to place, whatever. He's going to need that extra, power, to, recharge his suit. So of course he loses him in the midst of trying to explain to him whatever. He's turned off his connecting piece, and that's when Anissa's like, okay, I gotta go because this ain't gonna work, So that's when Anissa's like, no, Jen, you can't come with me. And of course Jen finds a way to have Gamby help him, with going to help her father and help Anissa them so they can deal with these, metas or whatever, and see whatever else is going on with Tobias, so they can just, stop him in his tracks or whatever else he has planned. And she, tells him, if you don't, I'm going to follow you. So he does a little pinky, swear she'll listen and whatever it tells her to do, that's what she'll do. And then they leave together, so they're working together, and I actually like that. Then you see the scene next where it shows Dr. Jace, sitting in her cell, and all of a sudden you hear some gunshots. Of course, this is where we get to see finally the teleporter. I'm going to go into some definitely rant towards the end of this episode about quite a few things, him being one of them. So you see the scene where, of course, he gets upper hand, whichever, and he shows up and she sees him do his teleport. He says that the Markovias want to see her, and of course she's freaking out. By then Henderson's trying to come in with extra police, and she's like, I will pay you double. And he's like, I don't need to renegotiate, which is rather shocking because you would think you're going to give me more money. Why not? He has powers. He could always get the upper hand, but I will go into more detail about that. So eventually he basically teleports her and him out of the jail cell, and by then Henderson just walks in and she's gone. She's gone. Excuse my yawning, guy. Whichever, you guys. It's kind of late while I'm doing this video, so if I do that, my apologies. Whichever. The sleep is slightly overpowering to me right now. So from there, you see the scene where, of course, Henderson's kind of pissed, like, where the heck is she at? What the hell happened? But he knows that there are probably certain matters or whatever. He's fully aware of what's going on in the town now that he's in with Gamby and Jefferson, so he knows there's a lot more to the story of how this all went down. So from there, you see the scene of Tobias kind of looking outside, seeing the destruction with all the lights out, chaos. You see fires, whatever, certain people burning, breaking into stores, whatever. He's just so proud of himself. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And then you see some authorities show up where it looks like they come across two of the metas, Rebecca, and then the one who's kind of like a hydro where he can spurse out fires, whatever, which is what he did in the previous episode where he, burned one of the guys who was a politician, whichever, to kind of clean up some loose ends for Tobias because of what, some things that he would be able to implicate him in. So from there, it shows, of course, Black Lightning shows up on time, and Anissa, of course, shows up too, and they're like, well, good, we don't got to go looking for you now. So that's when the fight all of a sudden starts with them. And from there, this was a nice little reveal that I actually enjoyed seeing Reverend Holt, because at first people, and I'm just going to discuss him now, kind of get him out of the way. A lot of people thought that he was dead. Now, we never saw an actual funeral. We just saw people mourning him, flowers out, whatever. So Tobias had this feeling that he must have been dead, whatever. Didn't check his, to see if he had tied up his loose ends with him. He thought once he had cut her, put whatever on his, little handkerchief or whatever, he was done. He basically, from what he's stating in his particular scenes, that he was in some sort of coma, but the Lord saw fit to spare him his life so he could live, whichever. Now you do see his appearance has changed a little bit. He's lost a lot of his some hair, mostly his eyebrows or whatever, so he kind of looks a little different, because I kept kind of staring at him like I feel like I'm missing something. Of course, no eyebrows or whichever, so you can tell he's kind of been through it a little bit, and he's just trying to get his footing. He has help from the congregation, whatever, helping him, and in the midst he's using his church as a sanctuary for people not to have to deal with anybody who's trying to loot or cause destruction, whatever. So it's like a safe place for them to feel okay to be. At first some people in the actual church don't want to let them in, but he's like, no, we're not doing that. Let them in. I welcome them. This house is the house of the Lord. We welcome all. And I love how he did that scene, which was really nice. So from there, you see the scene of the fight sequence that happens, of course, where everybody's, fighting, whatever, and all that. You see the other metas, come up, show up, whatever, and all, and they're kind of getting into it, and this is getting some good, licks in as well. Of course, Black Lightning's doing his thing, whichever, but eventually they get a up on them or whatever a little bit, and that's when they start using their particular powers on her. Like Rebecca's character puts this full water bubble around Anissa, and then you see the other one who can freeze was freezing Black Lightning, whichever. So that's kind of how they're able to use that. Plus the other meta who's able to cause people to kind of, stand still where they can't, move, do anything, whichever. So at first it was nice, because even though I like that Black Lightning and Thunder can always, work themselves into a situation where they can, fight off whatever and get the upper hand. But this time I like seeing the metas kind of show their skills to see what they have, because sometimes we don't get to see them at their full potential. But this one was really nice to actually see up close, whichever. So from there you see Gamby and of course Jen show up, where the place is for the power, like the generator, whatever, just, to cut back on, all the power, so all the lights within Freeland in the community will come back on. He asked her to, use her powers, and she kind of used them in spurts of, of her powers, and she had to do it at least 3 times, and the third time obviously was the charm, and, of course he gives her kudos, and she's like, she's like, I'm more than great, she's awesome, whichever. And then they kind of go back to the main generator, whatever, and turn to click the power, and all of a sudden the power starts coming on, whichever. And by then, since Black Lightning was kind of, being frozen, all of a sudden that surge kicks in. You see his eyes light up, with the his suit, whatever, and all that, and then that's when he kind of was able to break all the glass, from the ice from off of him. He's able to cause Anissa to break the water, whatever, and that's kind of when you see them do their real fight scene, which was really good, and they get the upper hand on all of the metas, and it was nice little, teamwork, and I've always enjoyed once she knew who her father was, and once he knew who she was, whichever, and him teaching her and getting better at keeping your emotions out of it. You're doing what you need to be doing, whatever, no, but don't let that take control of her and her powers and doing what is right. that when they work together, they do work really well together. I'm looking truly forward to all three of them working together. You know, they will definitely be a force to be reckoned with. So that was really good, you know, from that particular scene. So from there, you see the scene, of course, like I said, it shows now Tobias and Cutter. He's getting frustrated, so he takes the briefcase out. So, of course, he's ready to definitely use that to power up the other metahumans, which are the ones that, you know, Jefferson Pierce found and let ASA know, and, of course, Lynn know, whichever. By then, Cutter's looking at him like, what are you about to do? You know, like, no, don't do that, whatever and all that. Everything that we plan, whatever and all, it will all, go straight to hell. By then, it was too late because for some reason he didn't like her telling him that, so he lifts her up in the air. He's choking her by her neck, and of course Cutter knows how to move, whichever. We've all seen her in action in her scenes with Khalil and the cops, whichever. She flips over and she has one of her blades out, whatever and all. And the first thing out of his mouth is, so now you gonna cut me too? What would you think she was gonna do? You have her up in the air by her neck, literally choking her. She's not gonna defend herself. You clearly know she knows how to take care of herself. Otherwise, you wouldn't have contacted her to come help you clean up some of your dirty work, whichever, so you can keep your hands clean. As you've all noticed over the earlier scenes when she came into some of the other episodes, he wants to stay out of it. He lets her do all of the, killing and fighting or whatever. I was just like, man, sit down somewhere. Like, you're not even really thinking. You're being like a hothead. It's like, think the bigger picture, just like when Dr. Jace told him not to shoot up the pod, you're killing what you're trying to profit off or whatever and all. Then he didn't care for some white woman telling him what to do. Just a mess, whichever. So by then he's like, you gonna, cut me? She said, no, I'm not gonna cut you. She's like, I'm just gonna leave you. And he's like, okay, I can get 10 more of you. Yeah, right. Whatever. And if you get them, it'll be because of fear, because I doubt seriously a lot of them won't even entertain him. So that shows her walking out, and then she's just, she's gone. She's done. I think seeing all the things he's been doing leading up to this, maybe when she saw Cleo, the talking to the, portrait, she's just like, I'm over this. I've been doing all this stuff, whatever, I'm over it. So from there, you see the scene where it shows Dr. Lynn and Agent Odell. They're kind of getting ready to make sure to have all of the pods very secure there within that. And that's when you see the scene where, of course, she starts to, put something through on her tablet, whatever, and it stops because by then Tobias has kind of, decided to release them. Now, this is the thing I'm just going to have to say because I can't wait to then. You're not there to control the situation with all these metas that are coming out of the pod. So you're just going to have them just out doing what? So you thought if you send them out and they run into somebody, whatever, then they're going to start automatically just using their powers. They're kind of slightly incoherent. They don't know where they are. They're looking around, whichever. And that's when you see the scene of Lynn telling them, don't touch him, don't touch him. And even Odell says, stand down. Don't do nothing. So all you see them doing, they're all, of course, disoriented, and then they're kind of walking around, whichever, literally half naked, basically, unbeknownst to them what's happening. They don't know where they are, scratching their heads, whichever. It was just really, I can imagine, probably overwhelming. You don't know who these people are. You see men with guns. They're not touching you, but here you are in some space that you have no idea. You don't know who these people are looking at you, whichever. So by then, Black Lightning and Thunder show up, and they're like, she's, they're wondering like, Mom, what's going on? You see the pause, and Black Lightning's like, what should we do? She's like, don't touch them, whatever. That might cause them to, become, panicky, whatever, and they might end up using their powers, and they don't know what kind of powers any of them have. It's almost like it was about might have been maybe a dozen and a half or 2 dozen of them that were coming out. It was at least a good 10 or 12 that I saw walking, scattered all over the place. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that's all going to turn out with them. So they check in with her, whichever, and they see that she's okay. They said, what happened? You're by yourself. She's like, well, once this situation happened, Odell, of course, all of a sudden mysteriously just left. So from there, you kind of notice that they have to figure out what to do. Gamby's in the van, with Jen, and they're trying to figure out the coordinates of the situation with the briefcase because Dr. Jace, of course, gave some good information to them, and that's when they realized from the address off of Gamby's computer, Jen all of a sudden says, I know where that's at. So that's when you see the scene of her talking to Gambit, like, like, don't go off, don't do anything. She's like, well, you already know I can levitate, I can, fly too. And you finally see the scene where she slowly comes into her own with her powers. And it was such a beautiful sight to see, and of course Gambit just literally in awe of her, like, overall awe of her powers. And she just opens up the back of the van, and she kind of, gets herself positioned, and she leaps up into the air. And that was a beautifully done scene. I really enjoyed watching that scene. So from there you see Tobias at his place talking to the painting of his sister, having this conversation about how things are going down, whatever. That's when him and Lala, Lala shows up to confront him. And then from there, he tries to use a, devils in the cars, whatever. And of course, at that moment, it doesn't work, whichever. And of course, Lala shoots him, whatever, feeling he has an upper hand. And he makes a statement like, you never thought I've caught lead before, whatever. And he's just like, well, this time it's going to go between your, between your eyes, whatever. By then, Tobias uses a different type of, quote or saying, whichever, which definitely plays a part. This is the scene you see where, from the little bit that we knew from the beginning of the season 2 with the situation with Lala, where you remember the season before where he, of course, strangled him, whatever, and we thought he was dead, and of course, he came back, whichever, but we didn't know in what capacity and how this was happening. The last couple episodes, I didn't really go into it, but it kept showing anytime, he was killed or he was blown or whatever, there was a person that was, basically resurrecting him and bringing him back to life. That's one of the reasons why Lala just feels like he's kind of in limbo. He's sick of being controlled and used. He wants this to be over. He wants to rest. As he stated in one of the episodes previously, he's tired. And he's just tired of Tobias having this control over him. He's like, feel like he needs to be dealt with. He wants Freeland to be better than this with Tobias not around, whichever. And he sees how he wants to somewhat make peace with the things he's done, and he knows he's done some bad stuff. So with those different tattoos he has, whichever, that whole scene you see of them boiling up, whatever, they're red, whatever, and it starts to kind of come out, where instead of them going into skin and then all of a sudden disappearing, this new saying that Tobias says makes them come out. And he's basically falling to the ground. He's taking his shirt off, whatever, to uncover, because the heat of it all was becoming too much for him, whichever. And he kind of slightly passes out. Tobias telling him, just sleep, because when you wake up, you're going to be, probably 6 feet under in concrete. So by then he's laughing, at his, plight, whatever, doesn't really care. And he's talking to his sister, his pain, talking about he really thought he got the jump on me, whatever. Unbeknownst to him, somebody's about to get the jump on him, and it's Jen. She pops up through the glass, and you see the scene where she lets him know, because he asks her, who are you? And she said, I'm Lightning. And she said, and this is your payback. And it was just a beautiful scene to see. I loved seeing her finally feeling that, satisfaction of getting him. Not just for her, but definitely for Khalil, and what he's done to her, to him, to Khalil's mom, anybody that really knew him and cared about him, whatever, and all that. And it was just nice watching him up in the air, leaped up, whatever, and all, and couldn't do anything, literally powerless. So from there, you see the scene where it shows her father showing up, because that's where he knows she went, and he's trying to stop her, and she's like, Dad, just no, he deserves this, whichever. And of course he starts to use his powers, but he can't contain her. She is the most powerful. He is not as powerful as her. So you see it start to kind of overpower him a little bit, where it starts to deplete him. And that's when she realizes that she needs to stop. And she does. I know some people probably realize, like, no, he should, die, whichever, and all that. But I feel like I'm kind of glad, because in the end, as much as she wants to get an upper hand on him, it's not good and it's not healthy. And as much as she'll be, the satisfaction of it will be short-lived, and then realizing you don't want to be a cold-blooded killer, like her father said. And at that moment, when she stops, she goes to check on him. He has a moment where he has a flashback of a situation where it was in one of the previous episodes of him talking to his father, where you see the signs of him being young, and his father talking to him, but you see him as an adult. And watching his father be killed by Tobias, and all these things going through his mind about how things could have been, how he could have done this and that and the other. And then from there, you kind of see the scene where he's like, I'm okay, whatever. And then from there, it kind of goes into the scene where, you're okay. And he's like, and that's when Tobias kind of stands up, whatever, and all, and tries to shoot him. Nothing in his actual gun or whichever, and actually that wasn't even his gun anyway, if I'm not mistaken. I think like that was Lala's gun, whatever, when he was trying to shoot him. So when he picked it up, that's when they both decided to tag team and, like, man please, and that's when they both use their powers. And I thought that was a great scene of them getting the upper hand on him. And I loved how in the end Jefferson got to be the one. He's like, he's mine. They get into a little bit of a fight, and she's like, get him, and he's fighting with him and all. He gets a good couple licks and then he flips over and knocks him completely out on the ground. He's not dead. He's just completely knocked out. And I kind of like that, because even though she doesn't get to kill whatever, just the satisfaction of letting her father have that moment, as much as she truly wanted to have it, he deserves it after everything he's been through since he was a young kid, because of what Tobias has done to him and his family, and the hurt, and anger he's had inside of him, courtesy of what Tobias was done to him, literally almost all of his life, unbeknownst to him, who he truly is. He still does not know that part. So basically from there, you see the scenes of the Reverend Holt kind of talking to the congregation, all that, and explaining to them, Freeland, we're better than this, we're going to come together, love is going to bring us together, we're going to do the right thing, this is just a storm that's going to just come through, whatever, and all that, and we're going to get back to being the people in this great community of Freeland, whichever, and all that. And it shows, of course, a scene of Thunder walking the streets, doing her little clap where she stops the fires, and then you see Henderson and the cop car kind of looking at the devastation and the effects of this little riot, whatever. So you already know he knows it's time, kind of clean up, Freeland, and get it back to where it needs to be, after this whole ordeal. Now, this is the scene that I really enjoyed right here, is where, like I said, Tobias was not killed. So you get to see how he ends up at this place, and I love the guy who welcomes him, because he's laughing at his expense. And of course, Tobias says, I know my rights, I want my lord. He's like, no, you have no more rights anymore. Those days are over. He lets him know you are in the pit. You're in a place that is considered like, off the grid. There's no one that's going to come for you. Everything that you knew and loved with and all that is no more. You are here to stay. He definitely has something implanted in the back of his upper neck, how fitting, and he's basically taken to the back of this little area, and that thing just shoots up and it turns red. It's like some sort of probably some overall silence or whatever. Any type of movement he tries, whatever, and all that. I'm assuming it would probably somewhat paralyze him, so he would stop whatever if he tries to break out or tries to get out of whatever they have in this little red cell block of sorts, whichever. I mean, all you can see is his face, just butthurt. He's just pissed. Ain't nobody gonna come look for you. Your sister's gone. Cutter left you. You killed the young guy who was helping you. Dr. Jace kind of probably saw the writing on the wall, whichever, so she was, planning her, backup plan just in case you probably did her foul. She ain't stupid. So it's like, yeah, he has nobody. There's nobody who's going to save him right now. So basically, he's just there. So that was a beautiful, beautiful moment. Finally, we've waited for a while since season 1. We knew we were going to get in season 1, but I'm kind of glad for now he's locked up where he can't hurt nobody. So it's just perfect. So the ending where you see the last couple of scenes where it shows the family at the house, they're making dinner, whatever. Jennifer's telling her, her mom, she's proud of her and what she's done. Of course, the father's like, take the compliment, whatever. And then, of course, Anissa shows up. She has a peach cobbler. They're joking about his peach cobbler not being good because he don't put no peaches in it. I thought that was hysterical because I like, what kind of peach cobbler are you making? And then from there, you see the scene where he starts to feel excited, and happy, and then slightly overwhelmed, and they kind of realize it because he starts to get a little emotional. And that's when he says, I'm happy, whatever and all. But he says, sometimes I just wanted to leave this place, scoop you all up, whatever, take you somewhere and all that so you're safe, whichever, how happy he is and how grateful and blessed they are because they know other people in Freeland are not as lucky as they are, whichever. But then in the end, he was like, I'm just happy. I'm happy, whatever. And then of course, and this is like, I won't be late again. Oh no, don't get emotional, whatever. And then of course, a song comes on, Jennifer starts dancing, they all start kind of, having a moment, they're enjoying the music and all that and everything. And all of a sudden you see a scene where Jefferson kind of sees over in the distance what looks like to be Agent Odell. Agent Odell, of course, comes and he states to him straight out to your face, I know who and what you are. And that's when you could tell Lynn is like, you need to leave. And he's looking at her like, why, what's going on, whatever and all that. But Lynn doesn't know. But I think deep down inside she does know that he is an inkling that he might have been known. If he's been shadowing you when you were at the grocery store and then shadowing you here, that means he's been following and watching you. So he actually explains to them that the Markovians have more metas than you realize. So what's going to happen is they're coming. They now have Dr. Jace. and they're going to use her to help them get those other metas, whatever that they have all over in certain areas or whatever, and they're going to use them to try to use Freeland as being war zone, ground zero of where they're going to start their takeover. And he just kind of explains to them, that you all need to, kind of get with the program, whichever. And the reason I say that, because right when he says that to them, whichever, you see the scene where they're all standing there and all that, and you can see they're kind of freaked out. Before that, there was a scene prior to that, and this is the one that just made this whole episode all worthwhile. You see the scene of Odell, has these 3 main pods, and you see the scene of him, and don't fault me, I forgot the young boy's name, but this is the young boy who has the meta, the powers of a meta, where if he's talking, you looking you straight in your face, you can tell the truth, whichever. I cannot remember his name, but I will, of course, have the picture somewhere up in here. Then it shows him looking at the one in the middle of the pod, which happens to be Wendy. Because, of course, we thought she was in school just trying to be a regular, little teenager. Clearly, that wasn't the case, because he basically just looked in Lynn's face and lied to her, making it seem like, okay, I'm going to let, we're going to go your way. But he did not. So she was in the pod. The last and final pod was Khalil. That was the best reveal of the finale. I was so happy. I literally almost screamed while I was watching this on my bed. I was laying back in my bed, just chilling, watching the episode. I literally had to sit up in my bed because I could not believe it. And I had to, I don't live alone, so I had to be mindful that I didn't get too loud. But that was a great reveal. I am beyond elated that he's now going to be back. I'm happy to see that Jordan Calloway will be back on the scene for the following season. So that's why I bring that up. So but let me just go on and kind of go into some parts that I want to discuss real quickly, because this has become a long one, but this is the finale, and I really wanted to dig into this. The situation with this is that I'm glad that we're going to have something different to kind of tie going into season 3. The Markovians, because we only got a brief slight introduction to them, whichever, in the situation with what they were trying to do when they're trying to kidnap Lynn. Also the guys who showed up where Black Lightning got into a little physicality with him and all that, and he had the big honcho guy for Henderson locked up, whatever. But of course they were able to find him, and the authorities in his country were able to, I think, his some sort of asylum, so they were able to take him, whatever, because he had that particular government asylum, whatever. So that lets you know, they gave us a little bits here and there to let us know there's a bigger picture and a bigger situation that's coming, which, as you all know, Agent Odell made it abundantly clear and made them aware of, no, your work is not done, because now that Tobias is locked up. Now, as for Tobias, the whole build-up with him, wanting to do these metas, whatever. At first, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a nice little build-up, whichever. And it was kind of going that way, Dr. Jace, Todd being the nerd little boy, whatever, helping him, whatever, and all that. But then it kind of got off course a little bit. Him started being sloppy with certain things or whichever. At least we got to see some metas, and the potential. But now it's just like all the things he was, doing, whatever, and all, he became distracted, whichever. And not falling out through his plans, whatever. So I feel like, even though the way they did him with that instance is kind of not all that great, whichever, but in the end, he's not going to be locked up forever. I feel like it's going to definitely be about the Markovians for the majority of season 3, but I feel like going towards the end of season 3, going into season 4, I want to know who is the reason he's locked up. Is it the ASA, and who else who might work in the ASA with Agent Odell, whatever, and all that, who could be somebody undercover, who could be working for Markovians, you never know, who might end up trying to utilize him and get him out. Because, like I said, Tobias is not dead, so if they don't bring him back at all in season 3, he could, of course, appear now in season 4. So we already know that's not unfinished business, and once he gets out, he's going to be just as ruthless as he was anyway. And that's going to be something to see. Also, like I said, Dr. Jace now, she is with, Markovians because of the teleporter. Now, let me get on with the teleporter. I'm like this. They brought him in, I want to say probably episode, maybe, I don't know if it was 9 or 10, briefly. He's in some place, I don't know, some little rundown, like little, little beer, drinking stop or whatever and all that, killing all these random guys, whatever and all that. What I'm trying to understand is, when he made the phone call and he had another place that he's been instructed to go to for business, whatever, I'm wondering, how long does it take you to get there? Did you do something in between? Because I'm not understanding it. I feel like he should have been closer to the last like 2 or 3 episodes in. Then it would look believable, because I'm supposed to believe you're heading to Freeland from where you are. So they're supposed to make us think maybe a day or 2 passed in all these different episodes that we saw to believe that he was on his way down there to Freeland. Just the way that was done with him was kind of off. It's almost like, they didn't really realize how they did that scene in regards to him in one episode, and then you don't see him for 3 or 4 episodes, and then all of a sudden he just reappears now, whichever. That was interesting. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing if he's going to show up again, and that's going to be interesting when he starts to get into interaction with the rest of the Metas, and also with the Pierce family. When you have to do those little fight sequences of him trying to avoid them, whatever, they're going to have to find a way to deal with him, and what's the best way to, and I'm hoping Gambi has a solution, being that he worked with ASA, how to deal with somebody who's a teleporter. That's going to be very interesting for them to see. I look forward to seeing how that turns out, because I don't feel like we're done with the teleporter guy. I feel like he will be back in some capacity, and he'll probably be some sort of, if not a bounty hunter, some sort of assassin at times too. So when the Markovians have an issue with the Pierce family, all of them coming for them to get those Metas or whatever, and stop them from using them as, their little pawns to exact whatever, they're going to put him out there or pay him to deal with them, whichever, and that's when he gonna be gone, because this is this Black Lightning show, so we know they ain't going nowhere. So needless to say for that. But also, the one thing I was kind of bummed that we didn't really get to see, because there's still no conclusion to that, because after the last, before the finale, the last 1 or 2 episodes, is a situation with Anissa and Grace. I was really hoping they would show her, but I know this is only an hour show and really only 40 minutes because with commercials. So I'm hoping we touch bases on that at the beginning of season 3. They need to kind of just get that in there. Hopefully because I know they said that she might come up back on her own, whatever. At least now they're going to have the talk. Because now that Anissa put 2 and 2 together, when she saw her eyes out there, when they were out there in the park, and then this situation with the man who was up against the wall before they got into that fight's eyes glowing similar to how Grace's look, she now knows that she definitely must be some sort of Meta. She was scared to come to confide, whichever and all that. I need to let her know who I am so she can feel comfortable with me, to know that I'll protect her and I care about her. I just want them to work past this and get to this so she can truly tell her about what she's been through, what she really is, so we can know what she really is. Because honestly, I really want to know, because she definitely can turn into some sort of creature, but then she can shapeshift into other humans, other genders, people, whatever. She turns into a guy and she can revert back to her, whatever physicality. So is she truly a female? How did you get these powers? I just want to know, and I'm hoping they'll really dive into that season 3. So I'm looking forward to seeing that aspect. Secondly, like I said, I'm happy about the reveal for Khalil. I truly felt like it was unfinished business. I really wanted them to find a way to keep him around. Didn't realize that they were going to keep him around anyway. And I remember when Jen asked her mom to put him in a pot, whichever. So this is where I think once they thought he had died and his, whatever went out, whatever, and he started whatever, I think once they left the room, Odell had those people come in there and try to resuscitate him. And then from there, that's when he did what he needed to do to try to save him. I don't know if they had to make him die first to find a way to bring him back to life, whatever. Now, some people might think possibly he could be some sort of clone. I want to believe that that's actually him. That means he was never buried. That means Agent Odell definitely knows prior to that, because that means he was already looking at them when he saw the cameras, because you clearly can tell that he'd been watching for a while. So that means he already knew about Jen. That's why he was watching her at the funeral when she was still the last one there, standing there talking about, Khalil, I'm going to make Tobias pay. So I'm looking forward to seeing, now that he wants to work with them, what's going to happen from there. And then to see when he's going to bring the other 3 into the fold, whatever, so that everybody can use their powers, whatever, because they're going to have to show that scene when Odell's going to have to say that, because see, he's keeping something from them right now. You see, he's not going to tell him he's been watching me. He has cameras up in their house, whatever. I wonder if Gambi's eventually going to check that house and make sure, that, he hasn't been listened to, because, that's such an invasion of privacy. Secondly, Jennifer ain't gonna be none too happy, and let's just say, I don't care if he is SSA, she could literally kill him. So he better let her see Khalil alive, whatever, within the first couple episodes. We need to see that. I want to see the stuff with Jen and Khalil. I want to see Grace, whatever, and all that. Bringing the Markovians maybe somewhere within maybe between the 5th and 6th episode, whatever. We'll probably get an introduction to whoever's running the show with the Metas, whatever. Of course, we might see Dr. Jace again. Definitely we'll probably see her again, off and on, hopefully. and just move it along from there. Also, I want them to get back to showing, of course, Anissa doing her day-to-day stuff. Of course, working at the clinic or whatever. Also showing Jefferson back at the school, of course, Jen back at school, just trying to live some sort of normalcy, around the work that he had to do when they're not doing their, what's considered the norm, and then move it from there. But like I said, this season finale was really good. I really, really enjoyed this. This was a really nice one. So, and like I stated, we already know they're getting season 3. Know that Nefessa, she had stated this on her social media, and I think Cronin did as well, saying that they did get picked up for season 3. They're looking forward to it. I know I'm looking forward to it. I'm bummed that we got to wait basically all summer before it come back on. I think they most likely will come back on, if not September, maybe October, like they did last year. So we have a little ways to wait before the show starts back up. I love that I have this up on DVR so I can watch the whole season back over again, whichever, to kind of by the time, until the show comes back on. But yes, you guys, comment below. I know this was a little lengthy, but I really want to kind of really dive into this particular episode and just kind of really discuss it, and then kind of just give you my thoughts on this. And I'm curious to know how you all feel about the season finale, the overall season. What do you all think? Which things that you enjoy seeing, which things you feel like they should have kind of went into more detail, and what you're looking forward to in season 3. So with that said, you guys, I hope you enjoyed my little recap. And with that said, I will see you on the next one. You guys take care.